I live in a big city on the equator that imports a lot of our produce. Food is at the heart of Singapore's culture, but it's easy to lose track of where our food comes from because takeout is just so convenient. I'm trying to reconnect with the heart of my culture through my garden and my home. Welcome to my high-rise homestead.
It's raining today and I feel like eating stew, which means it's time to deal with the kitchen scraps. Everyone who cooks ends up with kitchen scraps, and most people I know throw them away. Singapore wastes a lot of food, and while I believe that the majority of food waste is generated by bigger corporations and our shopping habits, and this gigantic number is not necessarily tied to the individual's personal decisions within their home, I like to feel like I'm doing my part in whatever small way I can to live sustainably. So I have here some frozen vegetable scraps that I've collected over the past 2 weeks or so, as well as a frozen rotisserie chicken carcass from when I was too lazy to turn on the stove for a week. So let's start making some broth. All kinds of vegetable scraps can go into the broth. I've got stems of bell peppers, basil, mugwort, onion skins and ends, garlic peel. The only things to avoid are the green parts of the nightshade family of vegetables, potatoes, tomatoes, and brinjals. I let it simmer while I prepare the ingredients for my stew. I like my stew with just celery, carrots, potatoes, and onion. But stew is one of those comfort foods for which everyone and their grandma has their own recipe, so you do you. One of the stories I was told as a child that stuck with me was stone soup. A group of travelers arrive in a village late at night and ask the villagers for food. Everyone says no, they don't have anything to spare. Please go away. But instead of resigning themselves to a hungry cold night on the dirt floor of the town square, the travelers start a fire and begin boiling some stones. They're making soup. The villagers are so intrigued that they offer suggestions for making the stone soup taste better. One family has a bit of cabbage, another has a carrot, someone even has a ham bone, and before they know it, the entire village has joined the travelers at their fire, bonding over steaming bowls of stone soup. Here in Singapore, there's been a lot of talk about the kampong spirit, a sense of community, resilience, and how we've maybe lost it in the rapid urbanization of the past 55 years. Some people I know are embarrassed about my soup making habits because I can obviously afford nice things, pretty vegetables, whole cuts of meat, pre-made stock even. And why am I taking rubbish, bits that belong in the bin, to eat? But I think the kampong spirit lives in my rubbish soup, taking what I have, not caring about whether it looks pretty or not, and turning it into something nourishing and wholesome that I can share with my neighbors and friends. After 2 hours of slow simmering, I remove the veggie scraps and put them aside to cool down. I strain the broth and add the chicken carcass to simmer. The making of the broth is the most time-consuming part of making this stew, and while I could condense the process by simmering the vegetable and meat scraps together, I like keeping them separate so that I can put the cooked down vegetable scraps back into the garden without the salt and oil that comes with the meat scraps and bones. After another 2 hours, I take the remaining meat off the chicken bones and remove the bones from the broth. You can use this broth as any kind of soup base. I often make porridge, once in a while I make noodle soup. But here I add the stew ingredients and let it simmer until the vegetables are tender. I like to finish off my stews with fresh herbs and a dash of soy sauce. All the meat that is in this stew came off the bones of the chicken carcass, and there we have it, a surprisingly flavorful chicken stew made from trash and 6 hours of my life.